Today we're going to be discussing one of the most misunderstood concepts in aviation, energy management. It's not complicated, but we've reduced it to slogans and obscured it. But energy management isn't a technique. It's the language that the airplane speaks, whether it's in climb, cruise, descent, or a steep turn, or any other maneuver. So let's go take a look at energy management.
All right, everyone, welcome on board. We've got the Luscombe up in cruise, and we're going to just go ahead and jump right into this one. So in the introduction, we talked about how slogans don't really work when we're trying to make energy management work. And so we're going to go ahead and start by showing the limitations of those slogans. The first one is power for airspeed, pitch for altitude. So we're in level cruise here at 4,500 feet and 95 miles an hour. And we're going to transition into a climb at 60 miles an hour, okay? So the slogan tells us power for airspeed, and we want to slow down, so I guess I need to bring power back, and then pitch for altitude, okay? Well, that obviously doesn't work, right? Because the airspeed just dropped, and now we're not climbing at all, right? So in that circumstance, that slogan would not apply, right? So let's look at it a different way, right? If we're in level flight here and we want to accelerate, we're here at 80 miles an hour, okay? And we want to accelerate to 100 miles an hour. Well, we've got our next slogan, which is pitch for airspeed, power for altitude, right? So the first thing I need to do is pitch down, right? But now we're going to start a descent, and so now I got to pour the coals to it, add the power, which I guess is power for altitude, but then I have to come back and climb back up, right? So as a procedure, neither of them work all the time, right? They are simplifications that work in very specific circumstances. The problem is we've universalized them, and then we've created camps where you're either in one camp or the other, and then we defend them to the death. Let's do something different. Let's just talk about energy management. Let's look at the physics of the airplane. I'm going to turn right. Let's look at the physics of the airplane, let it have its say, and then we'll come up with, well, we won't come up with it because it's already been come up with, but we're going to look at what the term energy management really means in its fullest sense, okay? So the first thing we need to do is to define something called flight path, and you'll see why we're going to do this in a minute. But the first thing with flight path is that we're not just thinking about altitude, right? The slogans say pitch for airspeed, power for altitude, or vice versa, right? And the problem is altitude is too simple. What we really need to be thinking about is the path that the airplane is taking through the air, right? And this is pretty simple, right? If the altimeter is frozen here, which it is, we're on a level path, right? If we add power and raise the nose, and the airplane starts to climb, well, now we're on a climbing path, right? And that path could be shallow, right? We could be climbing very shallowly, or we could be climbing on a really steep path, right? So we can put the nose up like this. And obviously between the path being straight, it's curvy, right? Because that's how we get from one straight path to the next. Okay? Now, we could also have a descending flight path, very shallow. Right? So here we are, we're just gently going down, or we could have a very steep path down, right? So to understand energy management, we're going to have to first understand flight path, right? And we need to be able to think in terms of the path itself. Okay? That then allows us to define what we might call an energy state or a flight condition. And an energy state or a flight condition is a combination of flight path and airspeed, okay? And so we can see our airspeed here, and we can tell if our path is climbing, descending, what have you, with the altimeter and the vertical speed to some extent, right? And so we've got to be able to think of those two things together, right? And if we can think of those two things together, both our airspeed and our flight path, we've actually just defined the energy of the airplane, right? We can think about, okay, well, we're here at 87 miles an hour and 4,500 feet on a level path, okay? That tells us what the airplane has in terms of energy, right? So if we're going to think in terms of energy management, we need to be able to think about how do we go from one energy state to the next. And to do that, we have to think about both of those things. Now, you cannot just think about flight path entirely in terms of vertical speed, because vertical speed is really telling us how quickly we're climbing or descending in terms of time, right? And I'm clearing behind me. I've got a window up above, which is nice. I can clear back around. Okay, it's telling us how quickly we're going up and down in terms of time, but that's not flight path. It's close, but it's not all the way, right? So we could be coming down at 1,000 feet a minute, and we could be doing that at 60 miles an hour, or we could be doing it at 100 miles an hour, right? And those are two different flight paths, and so we got to be able to think about those, okay? And let's think about that. The slower the airspeed and the higher the vertical speed, the steeper the path, okay? We could take that to its logical extreme, right? 0 miles an hour and 1,000 feet per minute down, right? That would be a straight down path, right? We wouldn't want to do that, but that kind of helps us connect the dots and make sure that that's right. So if I'm going really fast and I have vertical speed, my path is shallower than it would be at a slower speed. Okay, so one of the biggest issues I see in private training, instrument, all the certificate levels, is that we're only thinking about one or the other. We're only thinking about airspeed, or we're only thinking about flight path, right? You can, for example, you can stay on the red and white lights, you know, on the PAPI or the VASI or on a glide slope and instrument training by sacrificing all else and staying on the flight path. Who knows what the airspeed is going to do, right? It's going to go back and forth. And same goes for airspeed. We could hold a specific airspeed and be climbing or descending or what have you, right? But if we're going to fly the airplane fully in light of energy management, we have to be able to control both at the same exact time, okay? So that's our definition of an energy state. And now we're going to look at energy trades. Let me take a look at my notes here. Okay, and so now the interesting part about this is that the trades are seemingly simple on the surface, but there's a few wrinkles. So let's look at some trades. Okay, so I'm going to bring the power back. And right now we have about 4,400 feet of altitude above sea level, so only about 3,400 feet above the ground, and 75 miles an hour. And we can trade back and forth between the two. And I think most of us have a good general idea how this works, right? We put the nose down, the airplane speeds up, and now we're trading our potential energy for our kinetic energy, right? And we can pull back, and we can trade kinetic energy for potential energy, and the airplane can climb, right? Now, despite my ups and downs on the path here, over time, our path is still a descent, right? Because we're at, well, now we're at idle, right? So you can pitch up or down as much as you want and trade back and forth between the two kinds of energy. But because of drag, we're still eventually going to run out. Okay, now that's pretty straightforward. I think most of us have a good grasp on that. And, you know, it never hurts to go out and kind of just do some energy trades back and forth. Some people like to call it the law of the roller coaster. I think it's a pretty good term. Okay, but now there's a few wrinkles. And the first one is that potential energy is pretty straightforward. And potential energy, generally speaking, is our biggest supplier of energy, right? I would take altitude over airspeed pretty much any day, right? Because I can push down and I can accelerate and get some airspeed. But, you know, if you got 150 miles an hour and only 10 feet of altitude, you know, you can trade up for a little while, but yeah, you're pretty low on energy, right? So I'll take potential energy all day long. Okay, now let's look at the drag bucket, okay? And this is our classic curve with our induced drag and our parasite drag and the drag bucket in between. And we're going to demonstrate this because we can show the drag with the flight path. Okay, so if we go to idle, okay, we're here at 4,000 feet, and we slow to about 65 miles an hour in a Luscombe. This is going to be what we call our best glide speed. Okay, and the best glide speed is where our flight path at idle is the shallowest. Okay, so we cannot sustained climb descend any shallower, right? This is as shallow as it gets. There's nothing better than this. We could do a little energy trade, but we're just going to pop up through it and come back down again. We're not actually going to do this. So this is our what we call our minimum drag speed, right? This is the point where the drag is the least. And anywhere from here, faster or slower, I'm going to have more drag. So if I pull back and slow down, the nose comes up. Let's see if I can hold 50 here. Okay. And I know the nose is at a higher pitch attitude. That's mainly because of angle of attack. But what I want, and maybe you can see it through the camera, but I can just tell you from looking outside, we're coming down a lot steeper, right? We're not coming down at the same glide angle, right? We're descending steeper even though the nose is higher. So this is kind of unintuitive, right? But what does this tell us? It tells us that we have more drag than we had at best glide speed of 65. So to get back to that, I have to lower the nose, swoop down a little bit. The airplane accelerates. But now we actually get our glide back. Our glide comes back, and oh, look, now we can glide further. And then we have the opposite case. We go faster than it, and now obviously putting the nose down, now our flight path angle is down here, right? And so we're going fast, we're burning a lot of drag, and the airplane's descending on a very steep flight path, okay? So the drag bucket kind of messes with the intuitiveness of the airplane, right? It makes intuition more difficult because we have to deal with the drag bucket, okay? So we're climbing up. So now let's actually get down to what energy management is. Well, the first thing is the recognition that to get energy, we need power, right? Every bit of energy that I've traded back and forth today, you know, pushing down, pulling back up, climbing in altitude, accelerating, where did all of that energy come from? It came from the engine, right? The engine gave us that power. And where did the engine get that power from? It got it from chemical energy in the case of fuel. So, right? And where did the fuel come from? Well, I had to buy it at the gas station with money, right? So money is what makes airplanes fly, right? But money buys energy, and then energy allows us to do stuff, right? And so you know, we're climbing right now. Why are we climbing? Because we have energy. We've power in the engine, right? And then even if we lose the engine, we still have some of that energy left. It's going to bleed away through drag, but yeah, it's all coming from the engine. So the first rule of energy management is to treat the throttle as what I like to call the mother may I knob. Mother, may I do this? Right? And the mother may I knob says yes or no, right? Because it's trying to add energy for us. So if we ask, so right, we're in a Luscombe right now, right? A little 65 horse Luscombe, 3,500 feet or so. If we ask Mother May I, can I climb vertically at 200 miles an hour? Mother May I is going to say, absolutely not. You can't do that. I don't have enough power to do that, right? I'd need an F-16 to do that, right? But even still, the F-16 pilot has to ask the Mother May I knob, Mother May I, can I do this? Right? And then, right, pour the throttle to it, and then they can climb vertically, right? But that's not within our energy budget, right? So Mother May I says no, okay? And so anytime we're going to do anything, right, if we're on final approach, if we're going to do a steep turn, if we're going to accelerate or decelerate or climb or descend or whatever we're going to do, we first have to ask the Mother May I knob if we can do it. And so this is both physics and it's procedure, right? So anytime I'm going to change from one flight condition to another, I have to ask Mother May I, can I please do that? Right? So I'm here in level flight at 3,600 feet and 90 miles an hour, and I want to do a 90 mile an hour climb. Okay, can I do a 90 mile an hour climb right now by just pulling back on the stick? Absolutely not, right? I got to ask, Mother May I, can I do that? Oh yes, well, you can. It might not be much, but yes, we have a little power left over. So Mother May I says yes. Now I wait for the energy rate to build, and then I can just ease back on the stick. Right, and I'm trying to keep it at 90, and we start at just a ever so gentle climb, right, at 90. Mother said yes, right, but only barely, right? Now, let's say I want to do a descent at 90 miles an hour. Mother, may I? Can I do that? Well, yes, you better take away your energy first, right? Because if I try to push forward right now at 90, all I'm going to do is descend. So I got to bring the power back, right? Now Mother May I says it's okay. Now I can come down at 90, and I don't get too fast, right? So if I, like I said, anything you're doing where you're changing from one condition to the next, you always need to run your plan through the throttle. And if you do that, you're most likely not gonna do something that the airplane cannot do. Clear right, turn right. You're not gonna do something that the airplane can't do, and you're going to catch issues. So most perfect example that I can think of, I see this all the time in instrument flying, even with turboprop and jet pilots, right? We could be in a descent, right? So we're coming down, and we're coming into the pattern, you know, maybe it's been a prolonged descent, and, you know, you might do that at idle in a jet, okay? And we're coming in, and we're getting ready to level off, and so they level off, or the autopilot levels off for them. Oh, good, yeah, altitude's stabilizing, right? And then they don't realize that the airspeed is decaying, right? And we're losing airspeed. Why? Because we changed from a descent to level flight without running the problem through Mother May I, right? Mother May I level off? Oh, yes. But you're going to need power, right? So this power should always be the first place we go anytime we're changing what we do, okay? Now the next thing is we have to figure out how to use that energy, right? So the throttle gives us energy, right? And then we have to decide how we're going to use it, right? Are we going to use it in speed, or are we going to use it in climb, right? How are we going to use it? Well, we have to decide that with pitch. And the interesting thing about that, we already proved with the drag bucket demonstration, that pitch controls both airspeed and flight path, right? So our brains really don't like this, right? We've seen that we can control two things at the same time, and our brains want to simplify them. And that's what our slogans, right? Pitch for airspeed, power for altitude, power for airspeed, pitch for whichever one it is. I said it too fast, right? That's the problem with those statements, is they're trying to assign one thing to one control. Well, you can't do that, because the throttle gets a say over both airspeed and altitude, right? So I'm accelerating here. I'm 95, 3,400 feet, right? And if I want to slow down on a level line, right, I can't just pitch. I'm going to climb, right? I can't just power, or I'm going to go down, right? So if I want to slow down to 70, I have to first reduce the power, then the airplane wants to descend, and so then I can pull back and slow down, okay? And then as I get closer to 70, I can tune it, right? So I'm getting into 70, I'm going to stop pulling there, okay? And then I'm going to see, is my power set or not, right? Air slow, maybe a little bit of a descent going, add a little bit of power, right? So the pitch is really determining, it's determining airspeed first, and it's determining flight path second. And why can we say that? Well, because if you go into the equations, okay, and you do this long enough, you realize that the first thing that's happening is really an angle of attack change, right? If I push forward on a stick, the angle of attack gets smaller. If I pull back on the stick, the angle of attack gets bigger, okay? And then that's very quickly then ties into airspeed through the lift equation and a locking of G. But yeah, that's for another time. But so yeah, airspeed, and then the airspeed and the angle of attack determine what our drag is, which then factors into our flight path angle, right? So I like to think that there is a little bit of credence for saying pitch for airspeed first, right? So the way I would phrase the energy management would be power for flight condition, then pitch for airspeed. But airspeed also controls the flight path too, right? But if we're always thinking about two combinations of airspeed and altitude, right, then we should know what airspeed we're going to be going to get the flight path to behave, right? So you should never just be pitching or changing without knowing what you're doing with both, right? Oh, I'm going to slow down doing this, or I'm going to speed up, or I'm going to keep the same airspeed, right? Okay, so enough of me just talking here. Let's look at this rule in a few different cases. Okay, so the first one is going to be just accelerating level flight. Okay, so we're here at 85 miles an hour, and we're at 3,340 feet, and we want to accelerate. Well, mother may I. Okay, well, you're going to need more power. Now, we wait to see acceleration and or altitude gain, which we saw a little bit there, and we push forward on the stick, and we're going to go to max forward speed. And the airplane accelerates. Okay, 3340, approaching 100. Right, now we want to decelerate to 70. Mother may I. Okay, well, yeah, I'm going to have to take out power to do that. Right, a little pitch bobble there. Now I can pitch back. And if I knew exactly what my power was, I could have set that earlier, but I wasn't quite sure, so then we fine-tune it later. A little low, maybe a little more power. There we go. So now we're 70, going here. Okay, now we want to do a steep turn. Let's say we want to do a steep turn at 80 miles an hour. Well, the first thing I got to do is accelerate. So mother may I. Okay, we need power. Climbing a little bit, so now I can push forward and accelerate. There's 80, and then match the power to hold it. Okay, and now I want to do a steep turn. Mother may I. Well, we're going to keep the same airspeed and altitude, but we're going to have more drag. So, mother may I says, you're going to need more power. Okay, adding power. Rolling in. See if I can do a nice cold steep turn here. Okay, and around we go. A little slow, a little climbing. So in that case, I can just lower the nose a little bit. There we go. Now I get my 80 back. Okay, now I'm going to roll out of this. Mother may I says you're not going to need as much power to fly level. So I come out and I reduce power. Okay. Next up, cruise to climb. Okay, so we're in cruise flight and we want to climb. Mother may I. Oh, you're going to need power. And even if we want to slow down, I'd say we want to go to 60, we want max performance climb. Okay, full power, pull up, slow down, pitch for airspeed. Sure I know where I'm at here. Oh yeah, we're good. Okay, so we're coming into a climb at 60. There we go. Okay, and now we want to fly level at 60. Well, we already have our speed. We're coming up on altitude. Say we're going to go to 3,700. Well, mother may I. Oh, not going to need as much power to do that, right? So I just bring the throttle back. Still here at 60. And we could throw even one other rule on the back end, which is trim to hold the speed, right? So I could just trim to relieve pressure on the stick. That's nice. And I got a little too much power yet, so I take it out a little bit. Okay. And then cruise to descent, right? So now we want to descend at 60. Well, I can't just push the nose down because we'll accelerate, right? So pull the power back. There we go. Now we go down at 60. Got to tune the pitch a little bit because we just changed the airflow over the tail. We've looked at that in previous videos. Okay, so now we're going to head back to Wahoo. We've got a little cloud layer moving in here. I'm going to head back to, it's kind of scattered to broken here. I'm going to move to where it's scattered. And then I'll descend. We'll head back to Wahoo and we'll look up the glide slope. So we'll see you back at the airport here in just a minute. Well, on short final, or on final, how about that? All right, everyone, we're getting set up on a long final here. I'm going to turn the PAPI lights on, and then I'm going to talk through our energy management here on final. Wahoo traffic, Luscombe 77903's 4-mile final, 20, low approach Wahoo. Okay, so we're coming in here. I think I got the PAPI lights on. We're right at about 1,000 feet. We got some weather moving through here, so it's going to be good to get into the pattern. We'll probably make one lap and then we'll call it a day here. But anywho, so let's see, I'm about 95 miles an hour.
Watch out, 7 kilos on a right downwind. I'm going to extend out here for a mile or two. Let you come in, David.
You might be able to get in front of me.
I got a partial load I got to land with, so I'll need a little bit of room.
Copy. Okay, so we're at about 1,200 feet above the ground here. And I think I got the lights on.
Traffic 10714.
And we're going to want to descend at 90. We're going to do a low approach. We got a crop duster that's going to be following us. So we're just going to try and do this at 90. So first of all, Mother May I, well, yes, you can start a descent, but you're going to have to reduce power. Okay, now let's say we're on an instrument approach, and it's pretty common to, you know, do an instrument approach in a single engine airplane, but, you know, 90 miles an hour, 90 knots, that's well within the realm of possibilities. Okay, and let's say that we find ourselves below the glide slope. Okay, so I'm just going to put the airplane below the glide slope. And then we're below the glide slope. What do? Do we add power or do we pitch up? Well, that's a good question. We have to ask ourselves, where's our energy, right? So if I'm low and I'm fast, well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up, because if I add power, I might just be adding more power than I already need, right? And I'm coming back on the slope. Got a little bit of rain right here, okay? And then let's say we find ourselves high and fast on the glide slope, right? If we're high and fast on the glide slope, well, we run everything through Mother May I. Well, Mother May I says if you're high and fast, you need to take out power, right? To get back down, then you could get back on speed, right? Okay, I'm not getting the lights. Anyway, you get the point of the demonstration. Okay, and then if we find ourselves low and slow on the glide slope,
Storm Lake traffic.
right, if we're low and slow, well, now we're low on energy, right, so we ask Mother May I, and Mother May I says, hey, you're going to need to add power, right, so now we add power, and then we can get back on speed, right, so we still, even on final approach, we run everything through Mother May I. Okay. Light traffic, Lusco 903, short final 20, low approach Wahoo. There we go. Okay, now we got the PAPI lights on.
On a 2-mile final 20 Wahoo.
Okay, we'll be able to use those on the next lap to demonstrate this. Okay, so we're coming in, and now we want to do a go-around. Mother May I, oh, power first. Okay, so we add the power. Then we want to climb away, full power, and we got the power to climb at 60, so we can pull back on the stick and slow down to, well, we'll slow down to 65 miles an hour. Okay, we're climbing away. Light traffic, Lusco 903's on the go, will be left traffic, and then a full stop 20 Wahoo. Okay, climbing out at 65. Now, let's say I get slow here. Right, well, power's already set. I can't add any more power, right? So, but I can pitch forward just a little bit, get back to 65. Okay. And let's say I get fast, right? So now I'm doing 70. Okay, well, I can just pull back, right? Power's already set for max performance climb, but I still run it through the throttle, right? Because if I did happen to, you know, if I had throttle creep or something like that, then I could add the power. Okay, clear left, turn left. Light traffic, Lusco 903's left crosswind, 20 Wahoo. Okay, our crop duster is landing, so we're looking good there. We're coming back up on pattern altitude. Okay, clear left, turning left. And we'll level off here. Okay, so we want to level off and accelerate to 90. All right, well, we're already level, and she's wanting to accelerate past 90.
Traffic.
So we reduce power, and we fine-tune our pitch
on the RNAV
for 90.
I'll be on my short final in about 2 minutes.
Oh, getting a little slow. Now, if I push forward to go down, to speed up, I'm going to go down, so I got to add power first. It is just stupid busy today. Wide traffic, Luscombe 903, left downwind 20 Wahoo. Okay, coming back on. Okay, now we're going to go out a little ways, set ourselves up on the Pappies. So I'm going to leave the power in for a bit here. Normally I'd be doing a power off descent, as you're familiar with.
Winner, says traffic 291 Yankee Alpha, turning left base, runway 1417.
Okay, the Pappy light should stay on for 15 minutes. That'll help us get a demonstration in here. So I'll do 2 sets here. One I'll try to do by changing power, and then showing what happens if we're low or we have too much power. And then, oh, here comes the rain. We're going to turn left. A little bit of rain right there. Okay, this will put us intentionally high on the glide slope. That's fine. Wide traffic, Luscombe 903 is left base, turning final 20 Wahoo. Okay, now we're 80, and we know we're going to be high on final, and we are. So first thing we got to do is take away power. Right? Other may I. So now we're coming down. And let's say we're too fast. Okay, but we come back down, and we're going to come on to glide slope. And when we get down on glide slope, well, there we are, we can raise the nose. But now we're going to slow down. And when we get to our speed that we want to be at, we'll add power. Kind of an abbreviated demonstration today, folks, but I hope you enjoyed the video. And let's get a landing in here. Okay, smoothly to idle. Got a left crosswind. We're going to put the left tire down first. Left bank. Coming in, pulling back a little bit, and there she be. Oop, little swerve. Got the right tire down, tail wheel's still up. Still have a left crosswind, keep the stick to the left. Okay, bring the power to idle. Stick back, dance it out with our feet. Okay, keep the stick into the wind. Just because we're on the ground doesn't mean she won't fly again. Okay, clear and clear. Drive away. Wide traffic, Luscombe 903 is back taxi on 1331 Wahoo. And Wahoo traffic, Luscombe 903 is clear all runways at Wahoo. Okay, fuel's off, windows coming open. Ugh, it is sticky out. Okay. So, I hope you guys enjoyed that. We showed that, right, power is what determines what we can do with both airspeed and altitude. We can't just think about it doing one and only one thing, right? And we showed how we can convert back and forth between our kind of energy with pitch, with the stick. So I hope you enjoyed that. Leave a comment below, like the video. If you're going to dislike it, hit the dislike button twice. And we'll see you in the next video. Fly safe. Talk to you later.